we've understood about various asset classes, how to invest them indirectly and directly. We have set our goals and even invested as per our risk profile to achieve these goals. So basically, all our investments are in place. Then we've also learned about insurances. We've insured our health and our life. But have you thought of a situation where in case of your untimely death, what happens to your assets? What happens to your investments? And who would receive all the assets and investments that you have made so far? And that is exactly the discussion we are going to do in this session. What do you do with your various investments that you make over your life, and how do you ensure that they go to the rightful person? To do this, you need to do estate planning. Estate planning is basically a procedure through which your assets in financial securities, your real estate investments, your properties and gold gets passed on to the rightful person. I'm sure we've heard of many families where after the death of the person, there is conflict within the family as to who will receive what and how will the distribution of wealth happen. When you yourself do that kind of estate planning, you don't have to worry about your family members fighting over your money after you are gone. And a lot of times it's assumed that estate planning should be done at your retirement, basically after you have created enough wealth. Well, that's a misconception. You should start planning the day you make your first investment. Yes, when you start making your investments, at the same time you can start nominating the right people, adding people as joint holders to ensure that those particular investments fall upon the right people. Because of waiting till retirement, it may so happen that you do not do any estate planning and something happens to you before that, leaving your investments at the mercy of various family members or friends who may or may not be fighting over it. So basically, the idea of estate planning is that you ensure that to whom your wealth will fall upon on your death. As simple as that. And why is it important? Because when people don't do this, a lot of times your family members or your close people may not even know what investments you have. Forget about fighting over it. And it may just happen that the rightful person may not reap the benefits of all the investments you've made over the years. It could as simple be ensuring that you leave your wealth behind for your children or for your aging parents. To give you a perspective, the unclaimed amount lying with various organizations in India is huge. When we look at the unclaimed amount lying with insurance companies, banks and post office, it amounts to INR 37,300 crores. With EPFO, which is Employee Provident Fund Organization, the inoperative provident fund is to the extent of 26,497 crores. And with Public Provident Fund, it is 22,000 crores. Basically, an estimated total of 86,000 crores is lying unclaimed with all these institutions. This itself gives you an idea that how bad we are at estate planning, at communicating about our investments to our children, our spouse or our parents to ensure that if something happens to us, they are the ones who can take care of the investments and also reap the benefits of it. And hence, it's extremely important to start estate planning the day you start your investments. Now, how do you do this? There are 4 easy ways of ensuring that you are putting the names of the right people to whom your wealth has to go to. First one is joint ownership. That is, you add your spouse or your mother as your second holder to your bank accounts and your investment accounts. Second is to nominate someone, to add a nominee to your investments. This is a very general practice and a lot of people do this, but this also ensures that your wealth is transferred properly to the right people. Third is writing a will. This is the most secured and the best way to ensure that your money is going to the right person. And if you don't do any of these things, then the wealth gets distributed as per the inheritance laws defined by the government. Now the only thing is, because they are inheritance laws, they are very complicated, and a normal person wouldn't want their families to struggle and find solutions under the law. So let's discuss one after the other these solutions and how they will benefit you, and basically what are the drawbacks and what could be the best solution for you. So the first and the easiest way to ensure that your investments are passed on to your spouse or other family member is to add a joint account holder, that is anyone or survivor, for all your investments. This will ensure that if one person dies, the other one will easily take over all the assets of the account. Now this is a pretty straightforward and simple method, but if you want to transfer your money to your minor children or to your aging parents, then joint account holder has its limitations. But as a practice for couples, we always advise to add each other as joint account holders, because it makes accessing the investments and bank accounts much easier. The second way to ensure that your money goes to the right person is through nomination. I'm sure when you open bank accounts, you make that fixed deposit, or even open your EPF account with your employer, you are asked to name a nominee. At that point of time, when you name that nominee, ideally we consider that that person would become the beneficial owner of the assets in case of your death. But one most important thing to understand with respect to nominee is that nominees are not legal heirs, they are the trustee of your money. So when you appoint a nominee to any of your assets, that person becomes the trustee or the custodian of your money after your death, and it is the responsibility of the nominee to transfer that money to the legal owner. And the legal owner is defined as per the will or as per the inheritance laws. It is highly possible that your nominee and your legal heir is the same. In that case, there is no confusion. But if in case you appoint a nominee to your sibling, but as per your will, you are leaving your wealth for your children, then the assets would go to your sibling, but it is your sibling's responsibility, and legally the sibling is required to transfer that wealth to your child. So basically how nomination works is that nomination is a way for all the insurance companies, financial companies and banks to be free of their responsibilities. And because of nomination, what these companies do is that they transfer the money to the nominee. It's the someone you trust, and this nominee will further transfer the money to the legal heir. So basically nomination is a way to just ensure that your financial assets are not stuck, and in case if there is no nomination, then legal heir have to submit a lot of documents, go through a lot of court procedures to ensure that the money in your various investments and bank accounts are transferred to them. And when there is a nomination, all these financial institutions easily transfer this money to the nominee, and then it is between the nominee and the legal heir to discuss and transfer the money accordingly. So according to the law, very important to understand is that nominee is a trustee. They do not own the assets and are legally bound to transfer it to the legal heirs. Again, it is highly possible that your nominee and your legal heirs are the same, and that's completely alright. But in a situation when they are different, then it is nominee's responsibility to transfer all the assets to the legal heir. So what do we understand from this? Your work does not end with only nomination. You should nominate someone whom you think is financially responsible, is a trusted person of your family or otherwise, and you know that that person would rightfully take care of your wealth and pass it on to the legal heir. Where you feel your legal heirs are responsible enough, then you can nominate them directly for your investments. So what are the things that you should keep in mind while making a nominee? You can appoint your legal heir as the nominee. Nominee can be changed anytime. So you can just fill a form with any of these institutes and change your nominee. If your nominee is a minor, that you need to appoint an adult guardian for the same, and you can appoint more than one nominee for your investments and give them a percentage of the holding. And we would advise to ensure that your legal heirs and people whom you want to transfer the money to are not running around from one place to another to get the money. Nominate for your investments from day one. So if you start making any investments right now, nominate the right person for those investments. Do not wait to be 80 to nominate someone, because that would really just complicate everything for you. And if you have already made some investments, go back and ensure that there are nominations for every single investments of yours. So if nominee is not the legal heir, there is a possibility that you nominate one member as your nominee and the legal heir is someone else. So to ensure that all your money is going to the right person without any confusion, the best way to do is to write a will. Yes, extremely simple. It is the best way to ensure that the properties are rightfully being transferred to the legal owner. So to avoid any conflicts within your family, it is always recommended that you are well planned and there is a will in which you clearly state what parts of your assets are getting transferred to whom and what are your terms of succession. So simply put, a legal heir is the one who is mentioned in the will. So to help you understand this, how it works, so if a husband nominates his wife for his insurance money, right? And so after his death, the insurance company would transfer the sum assured money to the wife. But as per his will, his mother is also the legal owner. Then the money that his wife has received would be equally distributed between his wife and his mother. So it is the wife's responsibility to transfer 50% of the wealth to his mother, who is also the legal heir of his investments. So having said this, nominee, it's not everything that goes to the nominee, but your legal heirs receive the rightful money. And to ensure your legal heirs receive everything, you have to do a very simple thing, is write a will. So it is very simple to write a will. Just keep the following points in mind when you're writing a will. Firstly, put your personal details like your name, your father's name, your residential address, your date of birth. Write the date. Clearly mention the date of preparing your will. Third thing is that you must mention that you are under no influence and are not forced by anyone to write this will. Then you must name an executor in the will. Executor is the person who will implement or execute your will. Hence, clearly his or her name, address, and your relationship with that person must be mentioned in the will. Then you should state the details of your assets, that is all your investments, whether immovable or movable, like your bank deposits, insurance, units of mutual funds. List down all these assets and mention the name of the beneficiary or the person to whom you want these assets to go to for each asset. This is the most important part of writing the will. Then sign the will after mentioning the above details, and you must have signature of at least 2 witnesses. Make sure that their names and father's name and addresses are also mentioned. As a prudent practice, you could have a chartered accountant or your lawyer as a witness to your will, because they can further prove that you were of sane mind and were under no influence when you made the will. So that increases the genuineness of your will. So writing a will is as simple. It's basically just putting down all the assets, writing the beneficiaries, and getting done with it. It's not compulsory to get the will registered. It will not lend it any legal sanctity or remove the suspicion about its validity. So that is how you write the will. It is a very simple process to put in place. Now, if tomorrow you want to change your will, you can just start the new will by saying that this is your final will, and any will before this date is null and void, and hence this will would be acceptable. A lot of times people wait till their retirement or their deathbed to write wills. We are not sure how many movies in the 80s discussed about family feuds over wills. But things are changing. We can have an open discussion with our parents, and it would be interesting to have a word with them and to understand what are the investments they have and how do they plan to transfer it to you in case of anything happens to them. This discussion will help you know what are the assets they have, how do you have to take care of them, and what are you going to do with it. And you can have a word with them if they have a will and what are their plans about it. So what are the things that you must keep in mind when you're writing a will? You should make a will today when you have to give your will to someone. So don't wait till the last day to write a will. Registering a will is not compulsory. And as I said, will is not for the elderly. It's not just for your parents to leave off the assets for you. If you think you have money and you want it to be rightfully passed on to your parents or your siblings or your spouse or children, you can just state that in the will and it gets done very easily. Now, the reason why we are asking you to make a will is that if there is no will, then there could be some serious repercussions and your legal heirs are determined as per the succession laws which are defined and which are very complicated. It is extremely crucial to write a will if you want to ensure that your estate, that is all your investments and various assets, fall upon the rightful people without any conflict and confusion. Because if you don't write a will, then your inheritance is decided as per the succession laws in India. And trust us when we say this, that the succession laws are not only just very old but are very complicated. And it leads your family members running from one court to another trying to prove who should be getting how much money, and we know that the legal procedures take a very long time. So to give you an idea, where you don't write a will, the succession laws are complicated. Even when there is a will, there are possibilities that the sanctity of the will could be questioned in the court of law by certain members to whom the assets are not bestowed upon, but they want to claim the rights to that asset. In such a situation, then the court decides based on various other criteria. I mean, we would advise you to go to a legal expert even when you're writing a will to ensure that it is a foolproof will and there are no loose ends which may create problem for your family members tomorrow. And if you don't write a will, then you are leaving them at the mercy of the succession laws. And the inheritance laws in India are determined based on the religion you are born with, married to, or converted to. So there are three major inheritance laws. Firstly, the Hindu Succession Act, the Personal Muslim Laws, and the Indian Succession Act 1925. So the law under which you will be governed will be decided based on the religion you are born with, married to, or converted to. So the Hindu Succession Act is applicable to all the Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists and Jains. The Muslim laws are applicable to all the Muslims, and the Indian Succession Act is applicable to all those who do not come under these two religions. So there are specifications for how male's wealth gets transferred under each law and how a female's wealth gets transferred under each law when there is no will. So if you don't want your family members to be running from court to court to understand the inheritance laws, to figure out how much would your mother get, how much would your wife get, what rights your children will have on your property, and them fighting with each other, or to even ensure that how you get your parents' wealth inherited properly, it is better to write a will and have a foolproof plan in place. For the purpose of inheritance laws, we would advise you to consult a legal expert so that they could explain what is the perfect understanding of the law for your religion or background. So yes, estate planning is a very crucial part of your entire financial planning process, because when you worked so hard to put your money in the right places, create your wealth, achieve your goals and put aside money for your children's goal, your retirement. By just not writing a will, everything can go for complete loss. So do ensure that you have your nominations where required, add joint account holders where you can and is the right way for you. And the best thing is, think about writing that will and do it. So the idea of this entire session was to help you understand that yes, so far we've learned how to invest our money and put everything in place to achieve our goals. And if our goals involve other members, then it is our equal responsibility to ensure that all the wealth that we create and have created gets passed on to the right people in an easy manner. It's not that after we are gone, our family members are struggling to find every single investment and reap the benefits of it. So as much as it is your responsibility to invest right, it is your equal responsibility to do estate planning properly. So we start with the first few things. Have your family members as joint account holders wherever possible. Add nominees for your investments. And the third thing is to write a will. You don't want any complications where your will is not in place. And have an open and a candid discussion with your parents as to what are their plans with respect to inheritance. It will only make your life simpler and more comfortable. So with this, we wrap up the entire learnings that we had to offer in this course, Namaste Money, where we started from savings to mutual funds to setting your goals to insurances and will writing. In the next 2 sessions, we are going to put a financial plan in place for a newbie graphic designer, and let's see what are the things that she can do with her money to not only spend regularly but also achieve her goals. So the next session is on our first financial plan of a newbie designer, Leila.